Melissa lay in her matrimonial bed, still aching from last night's heated activity. She was surprised Dawn had broken so quickly. She had wanted more of her husband. She looked over her side for him, but surprisingly he wasn't there. Melissa sat up and turned to the side. She should probably go and make some food for him. As her feet touched the soft fluffy carpet, all she could think of was his comforting embrace. She slipped into her slippers, got up and approached her dresser, unhooked her gown. It was a nice, short blue silk. Melissa stood feeling the smooth material, unknowingly smiling to herself. "Did I not do a good job, mi amor?" a strong masculine voice said. Melissa's smile widened as she turned around slowly. She froze. Their head stood slanted on the doorframe in a vest that looked tight as it gripped onto his muscular body. His smooth skin that was glistening as the rays of sunshine that hit his skin from the open curtains. And around his waist an apron was wrapped to him, hiding his abdomen from her sight. Melissa was shivering at the thought of having the one wrapped around his waist like that. "Whatever do you mean, darling?" Melissa asked as she tilted her head a little. "You're standing so perfectly, it shouldn't be that way," he said softly. "Fernando dear, what time is it?" she asked. "Almost 2 p.m., but what's your point?" he asked, approaching her slowly, like a predator on a hunt. She looked so good in her night dress, short lacy silk, his eyes wandering where he wished his hands could be. Why did she have to look so tasty? "I couldn't get out of bed till now," she said, looking at him like she was aching deeply for him. His Spanish accent always drove her crazy. Even though her body was crying in agony, she couldn't stop herself from wanting more of him. "Bien," he said as he pulled her closer and let his hand trace the curves of her body. He buried his face into her shoulders and bit her passionately. "Fair Fay Fern MMH Fernando," was all she could say. Her hands began to move gently across his back, then moving slowly towards his thick black curly hair. He began to move lower towards her chest, kissing her soft skin roughly, but still as passionate as possible. Melissa pushed him back. "Come shower with me," she said. She pulled down the straps of her nightdress and it slipped right off of her soft body. She stood there wearing completely nothing, exposing her symmetrical sand curvy body, teasing him as she walked slowly into the bathroom. Fernando stood there surprised and so enticed. He had never wanted a woman as badly as he wanted her. He couldn't even believe he'd waited so long for her. This was only her second time. How could she be so naughty? He chuckled to himself as he pushed open the bathroom door. Clink. Fernando hoped it wasn't what he thought, but it was. Melissa locked the door. "Baby? You don't mind waiting for me outside?" Melissa asked teasingly. "Thank you," she said, laughing. Melissa brushed her teeth and then she began her shower and was washing off the sins of last night, when suddenly the door burst open. And Fernando stood in front of her. "Don't play such games with me, wife," he said firmly as he slowly walked towards her, maintaining a bloodthirsty gaze. "Fair Fernando, you know I was only teasing," Melissa said. She was both scared and turned on. Just how bad had she made him want her? He ripped his vest and threw it on the floor, exposing his muscular chest as well as his sexy-looking veins. He untied the apron, revealing a wholesome boner that looked ready for all kinds of sexy action. Melissa was frozen in the shower, the water still pouring on her, but her eyes were fixated on him. He was gonna make her pay and she was anxiously waiting for it. "Ven aquí, Bibi," he said softly as he took off his shorts, exposing his thick Mexican CK. Melissa obediently stepped out of the shower and came down the little steps towards him. He was watching her look all wet and tasty, and that excited him more and more. "Kneel," he commanded. And she did. He proceeded to slap her face with his CK. "Don't tease daddy like that again," he said. Melissa was silent, enjoying the sensation off his CK against her cheeks. She opened her mouth wide, knowing it was probably what he wanted next. She looked up to see him smile almost wickedly as he pushed himself into her mouth, causing her to gog a little. He pulled himself out and allowed her to breathe, then again pushed himself into her and allowed her to suck him. He released low grunts of enjoyment. How could she be so good, bien, he heard himself say before he pushed himself further into her, causing her to gag again. He gave her breathing space, but before she had a chance to fully recover, he lifted her onto the bathroom sink and looked her in the eyes. "Do you want me?" he asked as his hands carefully touched her skin, giving her goosebumps and sending chills down her spine. Melissa was burning inside. It was as though her body was screaming for him. All she had the strength to do was nod vigorously. Fernando lowered his head and buried himself in her thighs, kissing them gently while sensually biting them. He began to move closer towards her P*SSY. He bent right over it and licked it gently. This made her wriggle in delight. He proceeded to push his tongue into her and let his hand roam her soft belly upwards to her tender B***sand into her mouth. Melissa sucked on his fingers to keep in her moans of pleasure. Her body, however, couldn't stop moving towards his mouth and back. As soon as he pulled his fingers out of her mouth, he stopped and stared into her eyes. "Please don't stop," she whispered. He slipped his fingers into her and watched her face as she began to moan with great pleasure. He lowered his face again and sucked on her CL*T as his fingers moved slowly inside her. He was making Srito hit her walls and be constant in his stroke. She began to thrust a little faster and suck a little harder. "Yes. F***CK. Melissa exclaimed, "Just like that." Melissa's head hung back and she began to tremble in great delight as she released soft moans and ran her fingers through his hair. At the sight of her enjoying herself so much, stopped and stood upright between dominance. However, his self-control was wearing thin. He put his C***CK right on her CL**T and looked up at her with another wicked smile. Melissa, who again understood this, put her legs on his shoulders, obviously wanting it more than she thought he did. He slipped himself slowly into her. She bit her lip to trap her scream and he grabbed her thigh tightly. When he was all in, Melissa couldn't hold back her screams anymore. He began to thrust and his low grunts of enjoyment gave her the most pleasure. He was S0 thirsty but calm and his eyes were a dangerous kind of inviting. "Do you like that, baby?" he asked in a low tone, also enjoying her tight wetness. This sexy lady was all his, and the way she was twisting her face, he knew for sure his control would soon vanish. Yes, please don't stop," Melissa whispered, trying to catch her breath. He went faster and faster, his naked muscular body grinding on her soft delicate body, his hands tracing her skin. She began to raise her hands towards his neck, wanting to pull him close and feel the fullness of him. "Fernando, take me to our bed," she whispered into his ear.